Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, November 7th. That's right. We're in the last 2 months of the year. And if you have not joined us before, I'm a sales coach and trainer, and I both work with individuals and organizations to help them do one thing: gain the confidence and skills to sell more effectively. If you have joined us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I either do a live training or a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales, and today is no exception. Today's guest is a certified business coach, a certified time management master, and I'm definitely going to ask him about time management because who doesn't need help with that? He's the CEO of Balance 6, and he coaches business owners to work smarter instead of longer. I definitely want to hear about that too, and to nurture themselves and their relationships and to make more money with less stress. It's my pleasure to introduce Christoph Nauer. Good morning, Christoph.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm really happy and excited to speak with you. Hey, Christoph, before I ask you the 1,000,001 questions that I want to know about time management and all the other things that you handle, can you maybe give us the 2 to 3 minute version of your background? What brought you up to this point?
Yeah, I'll try to give you the brief version. People can probably detect the little accent, also they look at my name and it's like, hey, Christopher? No, I know. And my name got famous with the movie Frozen. Now, I haven't ever seen the movie because my kids are grown. But once somebody told me that, I started using it as, oh, yeah, it's like in Frozen. But anyway, I moved here from Switzerland. I got teacher credentials there, taught for several years before I came to the US to study theology, got a master's degree in theology, and been in pastoral ministry for 25 to 30 years, and then started my business because my wife and I always working full time. We were drawn and conflicted to take time away for us because we should have with our kids. How can we leave our kids alone? And so one day we just said we gotta get out of here. So we got a babysitter. The kids stand up in the driveway with the babysitter, and guess what? They were chanting, "Party, party!" And my wife and I look at each other like, there's something wrong with this picture. So we feel guilty about leaving them and going out, and they are like throwing a party. Well, of course, because life is different with a babysitter than with us. But it gave us a chance to recharge our batteries and to nurture ourselves, which is critically important, so that we can be the person that we are supposed to be as a, whatever business you're in, as a parent, as a spouse, etc., etc. This whole thing of, do something for yourself when there's time left, that's the completely wrong approach. And we'll talk about that some more. But then, I went through, so I decided I want to help people manage their times and their lives and their business in a way that they don't experience burnout, they don't experience frustration, and they don't, at the end of the day, feel like, oh, day's over. But what the heck did I get done today? Because that affects the way you feel. If you come home frustrated and your head is still at work, well, guess what? Your family's not really getting you. They may get the physical presence of you, but that's about it. And that's not conducive to your health. It's not conducive to your relationship, and not the bottom line. It affects, the way you run your business. So anyway, that's in a nutshell how this whole thing started, and then went through, rebranding and everything else till I came up with the name Balance 6. And we'll talk about that name later on as well. So
Okay.
I hope that was brief enough.
That's perfect. And by the way, when I think of Christoph, I actually do know the movie Frozen, and because my kids were young at that time, and
Okay.
I probably saw it a million times. But I think of Christoph Waltz, the amazing actor from *Inglourious Bastards* and Django.
Okay.
Incredible. So I'm a fan of any Christoph. One of the areas you help your clients with is goal setting. It seems obvious, but can you please explain what is a goal and why is setting goals so important to success?
Well, so if you don't know where you're going, will you ever know whether you'll get there or not? It's like, who would get on a ship where the captain didn't have a clue where he was going? But that's what we do with our lives, and that's what we do with our business. So it's kind of like throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping that something will stick. but we don't know what will stick or if anything sticks. So a goal is something that is, well, most people are familiar with the whole idea of SMART goals, right? And there are several different definitions of that. Specific, significant, stretching, stands for the S. M would be measurable, meaningful, motivational. A could be agreed upon, attainable, achievable, acceptable, action oriented. I'm just using some of those terms. R, realistic, relevant, reasonable, rewarding, result oriented. And T, time based, time bound, timely, tangible, trackable. So, to give you an example, if people, especially now in society, they say, I want to lose weight. Well, you go to bed tonight, get up tomorrow, you lost a few ounces. Bingo. Is that what you wanted? No. So for it to take on a more tangible role is like, okay, I want to lose, I don't know, 20 pounds by, May 31st, so that I can still fit in my original wedding outfit when I go and attend my son or daughter's wedding or whatever. Well, boom, now you have something very clear. Also, when, why, and how much, et cetera, et cetera. So you can track it, you know. And so that's why it's so important. So you can track and see how am I on track? If this is what I want to achieve in 6 months or 10 months, where should I be in 1 month or 2 months? So you created, well, that's the next thing. Of course, then you create an action plan on how to get there, et cetera.
I know that what's always stuck with me is I'm not sure if you're familiar with the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, in which he says that we're born with a success mechanism in our brain. In other words, we pop out of the womb born to be successful, but the success mechanism needs something to focus on. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything for us. And what it focuses on is our goals. So that's always stuck with me. If you're wandering aimlessly, you'll probably end up nowhere. But a goal, and you said it perfectly, would you get on a ship with a captain who didn't know where he was going? No. And you could get in your, well, you live in San Francisco, right? I live in New York. I could get in my car and start driving west, and I may get to San Francisco eventually. I'm going to hit the other coast eventually, and then I just drive up and down, and eventually I'm going to find San Francisco. But if I use my GPS, I'm probably going to get there a bunch quicker. And having a goal is kind of like putting the GPS in your head so that you do get where you're going. Right. I co-authored a book on setting and achieving goals, and I believe we think somewhat similarly. I don't know exactly what your things are, but we suggest goals in more than just financial areas, and you actually suggest goals in 6 different areas and categories, and that attention to only one or even 2 of them can lead to a huge work-life imbalance. What are the 6 categories, and why are they important?
Yeah, so this goes into my business name of Balance 6. When we balance those 6, that's when I believe we are the best version of ourselves. Like I said earlier before, whatever role you play in. And the 6 are, health, well, time and money, of course, and people say time is money. No, time is more valuable than money because you can make more money, but you can never get your time back. Warren Buffett puts it perfectly. I can buy anything I want in the world except time. So we all get 24 hours a day, you and I, everybody. Nobody gets more, nobody gets less. And how we spend it is up to us. Okay, so time and money, health and relationship, and then higher power or spirituality, whatever your terminology you want to use, or self-improvement. Those are the 6 that I believe when we balance those, as carefully as we can, that's when we are the best version of ourselves. I have a goal setting tool that I make available to my clients where I talk a little bit more in detail about that. Also, I'm encouraging folks to, well, and then there's another great expert in the industry, John Maxwell. He says time is more valuable than money because time is irreplaceable. That's one of the things he says. So when you get into the whole goal setting, I have a slew of questions that I encourage my clients to ask themselves. And, we can or cannot go into that because that'd be too time consuming. But that's all, this is critically important because if, let's say, our society spends billions the health industry is $1 billion industry. Well, how would it be if we didn't lose our health to begin with? That we wouldn't have to regain it and pay millions of dollars to get our health back. So then what is it, 50% or more of relationships fall apart? I think it's even higher than that.
Yes, about 50% of marriages in the US at least end up in divorce.
Okay, so what if we work on that? Divorces are very expensive. They're also painful. If the kids involved, they're painful for them as well. Quite often, they're not amicable. They're very,
Acrimonious, it would be a good word. You're
okay.
talking to a divorced guy, so I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so the thing is, if we spend more time nurturing those relationships, and not just those, within a marriage, but kids, parents, grandparents, we could learn from other cultures where the elders are not shipped off to a home where generations live together and take care of each other. So we nurture those relationships. They're less likely to fall apart and crumble and go away. Same idea with the health. If I continue to improve myself, well, I'm going to become a better version of myself. And everybody around me benefits from that.
Yeah.
Because of my background, I believe we're all spiritual beings. We leave religion out. But what is it that we do to nurture our spiritual being? Do we spend some time, meditating, yoga, doing whatever it is? I don't know. But that's where the name business comes from, and that's why I believe setting goals in all those categories is really important.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said something. You used a couple of quotes because I say this all the time. You can almost always get your health back. Not always, but almost always. You can always make more money, but the one thing you will never get back is time. It's constantly moving. You cannot get it back, which is why we need to make the most of every minute. And I don't mean that you have to work every minute. We also need to play and relax and all that stuff. But whatever you're doing, you should make the most of it. You typically work with, I believe, business owners, and many salespeople are business owners, and almost all business owners also have to sell. Tell me about the people you typically work with, and what kind of challenges are they typically experiencing?
Yes, the business owners are usually in a service industry. So I'm not doing the brick and mortar kind. I'm not the brick and mortar kind of guy. Okay. So they're anywhere from 1 to 20 operators. And they're usually attorneys, accountants, insurance. They own an insurance agency. They're financial advisors. I also work with dentists or chiropractors and the folks in the trades. Just to give you an example, I had to work with a dentist, and he was ready to. His wife was ready to leave him. He had just had a new child, and he just kept bringing work home. And when we started working with him, I realized he was doing somebody else's work. So we started working together, and he eventually realized that he should focus on what he's really good at, what he studied, which is being a dentist, fixing people's teeth. Once he was able to let go and have his staff do all the other stuff that they could do and him only do what he studied and did, it was a game changer. No more work home, and he was able to add new patients to his practice. So it was a win-win. So he made more money and he had a happy home, because his wife and his kid got him not a briefcase full of work, So basically those are my clients. So the insurance industry right now is absolutely bananas. They especially here in California with the fires and everything. So they have a lot of struggles here. So you got your license as an insurance person. You want to open an agency. Maybe you purchase an agency. But now, how do you run that thing? It's one thing to get your license, as you know, when you get certified or whatever, you might have that little piece of paper, but what now?
Yeah.
And so that's where we work together. And I know you want to talk a little bit more about prioritizing and planning, et cetera, after that. But that's and the struggles that they have is, working insane hours. They, at the end of the day, they're the ones that come home exhausted. I call them, sometimes they're firefighters. They're putting out fires all day long,
Sure.
or whack-a-mole, and that's not why they got into business to begin with. They're good and passionate about something, and they want to be their own boss, but then quickly the business becomes the boss, and then that defeats the purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And the joy goes out of it. Even if they're making a lot of money, there's no joy in it. And it's lovely to make a lot of money, but if you're not enjoying your life and the people around you aren't enjoying you, then it's almost useless. And again, I'm with you 1,000,000%. I co-authored a book called Leverage Your Laziness, which seems to me about exactly what you just said. It's not really about being lazy, although I'm very good at that. The essence of the book is that you're going to be happier and make more money if you focus on the things that you enjoy doing and that you're good at, and find somebody else to do the stuff that you're not good at or don't enjoy doing. Why would I want to do my own accounting? First of all, I'm not great at math, and I can pay somebody who's an expert at it. And every moment I would be spending on accounting is a moment I can't be helping people sell better, which is my goal in life. How do I help more people sell with integrity and without being pushy and all the things that I do? But if I'm busy doing busy work that I could pay somebody else to do, and by the way, probably pay them a lot less per hour than I earn, not only am I going to be happier and more productive, but I'm going to make more money, because every moment that you spend on low income tasks, in the book, we actually give an example of an attorney collating her own documents. Now, an attorney who charges $250 an hour could pay somebody $10 an hour to do that. And so it just doesn't make sense. So I love hearing that. I want to switch topics, though, because I know you're an expert in something that I hear about all the time. And I want to talk about time management. As a sales trainer, when I'm live in front of an audience, in the beginning of the day, I always go around the room and I ask people, what's your biggest challenge when you're selling? What's the thing that most keeps you from earning more money in sales? And Christoph, I will sometimes exaggerate a story to make a point, but there's no exaggeration here. A minimum of 50%, at least, of every audience I've ever stood in front of say their biggest challenge is there aren't enough hours in the day. And you already said it, and I agree. We all have the same 24 hours, but they just don't know how to manage their time. So I'd like to know what is the no time to free time method, and how do we prioritize using the ABCDE method? I know I just gave you a lot to work with, but take it away and help us be more effective with our time.
Okay. Well, first of all, those 50% in your audience, you should just refer them to me. Okay. And I'll help them, change that. So let's start with the ABCD method. This is from Brian Tracy's book of tricks. I got certified by him, and there's other methods to prioritize. However you want to do it, that's fine. So
I'm a fan of simple, though, and I think your method, from what I looked at, it looks incredibly simple, because simple makes it easy for people to do things, which means they're more likely to do it. Please explain.
Exactly. What I usually try to do with my clients, start with at the end. E stands for eliminate. So the famous to-do list, right? We've all heard that. The to-do list can't be in your head because it doesn't exist. It has to be written down. It can be old-fashioned book, paper, or a document. It doesn't matter. Once you do that, and we always put too much stuff on it anyway, first you go through it and say, what can I eliminate? Okay, that should shorten your list. And then the biggest one is the D. We can already imagine what that means, delegate. A lot of my clients, I ask them to put a sticky note on that computer with a big D, or even put it on your bathroom mirror or whatever, so they see it's in your face. Oh, I can do it better. Oh, I can do it faster. You already mentioned it before. Doing your own books or whatever. What kind of baloney? What can I delegate? Yes, as a business owner, you have to make sure it gets done, but it doesn't mean you have to do it. So once you do E and D, your list should be way shorter. Only then do I jump to A. And you would think A is where the critical tasks that take our business to the next level. No. In my opinion, A is Jeff. A is you. A is the business owner. What is it that you're going to do for yourself that brings you joy, that you need to recharge your batteries? For instance, you talked about first thing in the morning, you're taking your dog for a walk. Me too. That's for me. And nobody has any right to impede on that. This is in stone, written in stone. This is for you. This is for me. And of course, my dog. Okay.
Well, for me, it's to make sure that he doesn't do an accident in the house. Plus, as we both know, they love to get outside and sniff everything, and that's joy to them. And I want him to have his best life.
Exactly. And so with some of my clients, there's, maybe it's the gym, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's meditation. I don't know what it is, but those items go there and they have to be put on your calendar, and you have to block time for that first. And those are non-negotiable. Unless the house is on fire, they're non-negotiable.
Wait, stop for 1 second, because I love what you just said. Got to put yourself first. Take care of yourself. If you don't make yourself a priority, you're never going to get stuff. You're never going to get to. You're going to feel crappy all the time, and we tend to get caught up in little tiny stuff that makes no difference in our lives, instead of focusing on the important stuff and making that person. Taking care of ourselves, just like taking care of the dog, is crucial. I love that, Christoph.
Yes. And that prioritizing, that A task, is probably different from almost all other coaches or consultants I hear or see. But that's me, and you asked me to be here, so this is my opinion.
And that's what I'm looking for.
Then still an A task, of course, after that, if you want to do it in A2, will be those critical tasks that if you don't do them, something gets hurt in the business world. In your, a client gets mad, or a client gets neglected, or something, so that you have to get those things done. Okay. And B tasks next, they are important, but if they happen, today or tomorrow, that's either way is fine.
So important, but not urgent.
Yes. Right.
Gotcha.
And then C is kind of like, I think Brian Trace just continued with the A, B, C, D, E because he wanted to do the E and the D in there. And then so he had to throw in a C in there. He couldn't just do A, B, D, E. I'm just guessing here. Okay. I can't speak for him. But that is my approach. And so once you have done that, so the famous to-do list, we talked about that, the prioritizing. Basically, I'll talk about the 5-step process that I recommend to my clients. To-do list, prioritizing. And now you have to assign a time to these tasks. How long will it take me to finish this particular task? And Murphy's Law says it always takes you longer, right? So in order to avoid stress, I recommend, if you think you can get it done in 30 minutes, give it 45. If you think it's a 45-minute task, give it an hour. Once you've done that, then now the next step is you got to put it on your calendar. If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't get done. I catch myself all the time. Do it. Put it on your calendar, block time for it. And then the 5th component is, well, you might think it's obvious, follow your schedule. I don't know how many times my clients blow off what's on their schedule. They go through the process of doing it, and then they're blowing it off. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on in the conversation. But if you follow this 5-step process, your life and your business, it's a game changer. It really is.
Yeah. I love listening to people who say stuff where I get to go, yeah, that's what I teach too. And that's what I do. That's brilliant. I haven't used a to-do list in years and years and years. but everything goes on my calendar. And I teach salespeople what I call calendarization, which sounds like exactly the same thing. Everything goes on your calendar. Everything, you need to assign the right amount of time to each task, and you need to actually do it while being somewhat flexible, because sometimes things do get in the way and you have to move things forward. But for the most part, you want to plan your day and work your plan. One of the things I teach is never, ever leave your office today, whether you work at home or in an office somewhere else, without planning tomorrow completely. Because if you don't do that, then you get into your office, you sit down at your desk first thing in the morning, and the first thing you do is go, okay, what should I do first? And you'll probably waste 5 to 10 minutes just figuring out what to do. And most likely, it won't be the thing that's most likely to result in income. You're going to do the easiest thing or the most fun thing, because that's just human nature. I will debate you on one thing, though. You actually said something I found interesting. You said, if you think a task is going to take 30 minutes, allow 45. If you think it's going to take 45, allow 60. I disagree. I say, if a task takes you 20 minutes, that's how much time you put on your calendar. And the example I always give is, I use 20 minutes because it takes me 20 minutes to write a proposal. Now, I use Google Calendar, so every task I put on my calendar defaults to an hour, but then I can move the slider, with my mouse and make it longer or shorter. If I put it on my calendar to give myself an hour to write a proposal, it's going to take me an hour to write a proposal. But if I put 20 minutes on, because I know from experience that's really how long it takes, that's how long it's going to take me if, and only if, I work with two things: focus and velocity. And those are words I use with my coaching clients constantly. Focus to me means you do one thing at a time. To me, multitasking is a myth. You cannot possibly do two things at the same time and have them done as effectively as if you focus on one. So the first word is focus. And then the second thing is work as quickly as you possibly can without making mistakes. And my experience is most people don't. We treat time as if there's plenty, as if, well, there's always tomorrow. And for most of us, there is always tomorrow. But my philosophy, Christoph, and I see you smiling, my philosophy is, the more I can get done today, the more I can get done tomorrow. The more people I can serve, the more things I can do. So that's where I would argue about if I give myself extra time, I'm going to find a way to fill up that time.
Okay. No, I hear exactly where you're coming from. And I think part of it is you're already way ahead of the game, because what you said is critically important. You just said, I haven't talked about that yet, but is focus on one thing. So during that time, you got to focus on that one thing. And yes, if you as disciplined as you are, and this is exactly how long it takes me, then yes, that's the way to go. But if you're guessing, okay, maybe this is a 30-minute, maybe it's not. Because a lot of business owners, they're guessing. They don't know how long this particular task is. You're ahead of the game because it takes me 20 minutes to do a proposal. Boom, boom. Now if that particular task takes you this long, then yes, absolutely. And I love what you said. That's what you do. I highly recommend tell people multitasking is overrated. Something gets left out or something suffers. Something doesn't get the attention it needs. Focus on one thing. It's basically one of the things that Brian Tracy teaches as well. He talks about the 90-15-90 method. And what he means by that is focus 90 minutes on one task. They take a 15-minute break and then do another 90 minutes on that same task. If that task takes that long, if you do that, and that means, like you said, nothing else. Focus on that task, nothing else. No, you don't look at your phone, you don't look at the email, you do nothing. If you do, I tell my clients, you just do that 90-15-90 once a week. The change you see is going to be dramatic. Now, if you try to do it on a daily basis, you're going to be blown out of your socks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if 90 is too much, I say, well, do 60, 10, 60, doesn't matter. It's about the uninterrupted time. That's the critical component of it.
Yeah. One of the things that made the system that I was telling you about, which is pretty much what you're saying also, work for me is when I first came up with it, and I know I'm not the only person to come up with time management, but when I devised the system, everything goes on your calendar, assign the right amount of time. The game I played with myself, because I try to turn everything into a game and make it fun. My game was, if I get to the end of the 20 minutes to write a proposal and I haven't finished it for whatever reason, I now have to move on to the very next thing on my calendar. And then I owe myself the time at the very end of the day when I finished everything else and I just want to relax to go, oh no, I didn't focus hard enough. I was looking at TikTok for a few minutes instead of writing my proposal. I now owe myself the time at the end of the day, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, to now finish what I didn't do because I didn't focus. And I found that it only took a few times of doing that before I said, you know what, when work is done, I want it to be done. I don't want to have to fill in the work that I didn't get to. At any rate, we're about halfway through this interview. We're talking to Christoph Nauer, who's a time management and productivity expert. We're going to take 70 seconds for a brief commercial from our sponsor, which is me. Hey, it's Jeff. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, The Sales Pro Network. But I'm here to talk about something else today. Are you a coach, consultant, creative, a solopreneur, or small business owner? And maybe you don't like selling. Maybe you think in order to sell, you have to be sleazy or pushy or salesy. I'm here to tell you that you don't have to be. And in fact, I've created a 12-week live program just for you. It's called the Sales Confidence Lab, and we meet every week for 2 hours. And during those 2 hours, I'll give you both the mindset and the skill sets to enroll more clients more confidently. You'll do it naturally without any sleaze, without being pushy, without corny scripts or anything like that. I'll teach you how to have natural conversations that result in more people enrolling with you. If you're interested, drop me an email at jeff@salesconfidencelab.com. We just finished the first 12-week program, and both the reviews and the results were outstanding. The next program starts on January 6th, so if you're interested, drop me a line at jeff@salesconfidencelab, and I'll get back to you with the details. Christoph, I am back with you. Christoph Nauer is a certified business coach, productivity and time management expert. And Christoph, what is a time budget?
So everybody's familiar with a budget, right? But the time budget is how much time do you spend on what activity? And most people don't know that. How much time do you spend on social media? How much time do you spend on whatever it is? And once you start looking at that, you realize, holy smokes, a lot of my time is just, thrown away. And then you can do something about it. I think part of it is we're not even aware of when and where and how we spend our time, because it's just, it's there. It's free for the taking. And like you said earlier, well, there's always tomorrow. Yes, there is always tomorrow. But if we want to become more productive and more efficient, and we want to get, at the end of the day, we want to feel like, awesome, I got the stuff done I needed to get done. Tomorrow is all laid out. I have the GPS for the day. Awesome. So I'm going to put up my feet. I'm going to watch a football game, or I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to spend time with the family. We have a family dinner, whatever. Or I go out with my wife, whatever. And my head is not at work, which is the key component. I mean, I had a realtor. She was a single mom, 4 kids. And she was always attached to her phone. So I said to her, introduced the concept of office hours to her. And she's like, what? You don't understand my industry. I said, you're right. I'm your coach. I'm not a realtor, but I can tell you one thing. Those 4 beautiful children over there, they will resent you not being present. And I'm not saying physically present. I'm talking present fully. And it took her a while. She fought me for a while. But eventually she did. She put it on her email signature, outgoing voicemail message, clearly stating when they can respond, when she's working, when they can expect the response. And she's running a multi-million-dollar business now. She's about 5 associates, and doing just great. And her kids, she's posting stuff with the kids and everything. It's that we have to give ourselves permission. That's the thing. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. Oh, I can't do that. Society says I should be working 80 hours a week. If I only work 40, geez, who am I? Well, let's look to Europe. I mean, the Europeans, are they all crazy? I don't think so. Most of them, they don't work more than 40 hours a week. France has the 32-hour week, you know. So it's, the whole idea of work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, and I love what you said about most business owners don't know where their time goes. With my clients, I have them do a time audit. I actually have them write down for 1 week everything they do during the week, everything, even go to the bathroom and how long it took. Because at the end of the week, we can then look at it and review. And it's astounding how often people will look at what they've done, if they're being honest, of course, and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I wasted so much time." It's kind of like many of the diet companies, like Jenny Craig and Weight Watchers and all this. They have you track what you eat for a couple of weeks, and when you look at, I've done it more than once, and it's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe what gross stuff I put into my body." It's eye opening. So an education, can help you be aware of, at least if you're not aware of where your time is going, it's going to be very difficult for you to manage it more effectively. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, because we're doing so much stuff on autopilot. So all the stuff we're talking about is never taught anywhere. We have all kinds of courses in college, but some basic stuff that should be taught there is not. You know, what we're discussing here, that should be a college course. How to the best use of your time. We have all kinds of courses on money. Well, why don't we have any courses on time? Because time is finite. Like we said, you and I, we both get the same money. Yeah, there's the very rich, the poor, the in between, and everything.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's mind-boggling. But
Some people, maybe many people, who seem highly successful, making tons and tons of money, they work insane hours, just 6 a.m. till 12 at night, or I may be exaggerating a little, but you know what I'm talking about, because they believe that the harder you work, the more successful you'll be. And I'm a big reader here, so here's another book that I love. It's called The Power of Full Engagement, and it was written by two sports psychologists. They suggest, and I believe too, and I'd like to hear what you have to say, that we're actually way more effective and way more efficient when we build in breaks to our day. They actually suggest that every 60 to 90 minutes, 60 to 90? Yeah, 60 to 90 minutes, you need a short break, not an hour break every 60 to 90 minutes, but a 5-minute break. And that and they gave case study after case study of, they'll talk about the high performing stockbrokers who work from 6 a.m. till 8 or 9 at night and, are making millions of dollars. But then they give examples of people who build little breaks into their day, and inevitably they're always more efficient and effective. Can you speak to that a little bit? Do you agree, or is that something that you'd say, nah, that's not right?
I fully agree with that. Absolutely. Yes. Your body needs it, and your body thanks you, dehydration is a huge part of our health issues. People don't drink enough, So, and the new cancer is sitting. That's the new cancer. So get up, even if you just walk to the kitchen or you walk somewhere and get a sip of water, or you go outside, get some fresh air. Yeah, absolutely, totally agree with you. I mean, I talk to my clients on lunch break. I said, "Oh, you take your lunch break?" Yeah, I'm sitting on my computer eating my lunch. Then that's not a lunch break. No, you leave your office. Here in California, most of the time the weather is beautiful. Go to a park, sit down and eat your sandwich and watch the stars, watch the birds, whatever. You don't have to do it for 2 hours. Like the siesta they're doing in Italy or whatever. That you don't have to, but give yourself 30 minutes. You're going to be more productive in the afternoon. And talking about those people working 12, 14-hour days, your productivity goes down after 8 hours. So I've done a lot of research on that. And generally speaking, you're getting less and less productive, and not more. So I fully agree with the whole concept of taking breaks, the lunch break in the middle. If you do that, you're more productive in the afternoon. And, if unless you're a robot, I don't think that you're going to be productive at 5, 6, 7 in the evening. I think that the other thing people underestimate is the importance of sleep. Oh, I get away with 5 hours of sleep. Oh, I get away with 4 hours. The experts, and I'm not one of them, but those who know say 7 to 8 hours is what your body needs. Well, maybe we should listen to them. They obviously know something. They've studied this. I haven't, you know. So listening to experts, I think, is critically important. Why don't we believe them? It goes back to the whole concept of health, you know. And then eventually it catches up, and oh, now we have to take this medicine, that medicine, and this and that.
And it's difficult to be productive and make a lot of money if you're not healthy.
Exactly. You know, yeah. So yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, I fully agree with that concept. Take a break, get up, move around, drink tea, water, whatever. You know, stay hydrated.
Yeah, I'm always happy that I have a dog because I think dogs are the best thing on the planet. They're truly the greatest thing. But I would probably sit here all day, you know, without taking a break. Except I know that every couple hours, for sure, this guy's got to do his business. So you know, it's I can't possibly go a whole day sitting here and just doing work. Not if I'm going to take good care of my best friend, and I certainly am.
Well, here there's a perfect example. So if you need an accountability partner, get a dog. You know, I don't know if you know Jimmy Buffett, but he wrote a song that says "Love me like my dog does." If you haven't, have you listened to it? If you not, if you haven't,
I don't know that song, but boy, oh boy, I sure would like to find somebody who. I can't even imagine. As much as I love my kids, I'm not sure if I love my kids as much as my dog loves me.
Well, anyway, if you haven't, you being a dog person, you haven't listened to that song, look it up. It's absolutely fantastic. It's so dead on.
Will do. When I'm doing research for these interviews, I always go to people's websites and their LinkedIn feed. And there's something I saw, I believe it was on your LinkedIn feed, or it might have been your website. You talked about how to elevate your efficiency blueprint. What is an efficiency blueprint and why do we need one?
Well, it's a strategic plan or model to improve performance. You know, so if people are happy with their performance, you know, and good. But we talked about waste, you know, how people waste productivity, you know, within the business. They don't have systems in place. They don't have structures in place. They're firefighters. You know, we've talked about that. It all goes back to that. So if you, it basically goes back to a plan, you know. I mean, 1 minute of planning can save you up to 7 minutes in execution. You know that, obviously, because that's
100%.
some of the work you do, you know, and that's what it's all about, you know. So key components of that are, you know, we talked about the whole thing of goal setting. It's got to be goal oriented, you know, and then the process, you know, a detailed way of, you know, how do we achieve those goals. You know, we talked about it being measurable, you know, so those two kind of go hand in hand, you know. And I think that we talked about the delegate. This is a critical component in here, you know. You have systems and structures in place that allow you to run the business. You know, I'm working with a client, I've worked with him for years now, so that he can eventually, when he goes on vacation, he can go on vacation because he knows his team is taking care of the business. So he doesn't have to be attached to his computer while he is in Hawaii or wherever he is going on vacation. Because if that's the case, it's not really a vacation.
It's just working out of the office.
Yes. You know, so having a system, it's all about systems and structures and who's doing what, and you as the business owner, you kind of the puppet master. Okay. You make sure that everything happens, but you don't do it yourself. I mean, we talked about it earlier, you know, and it goes, all this stuff kind of morphs and works together. You know, it's not, they're not all separate things.
Yeah. I brought up the words focus and velocity earlier. And, you know, we live in an insane world where people are vying for our attention every second. We're getting bombarded every minute of every day with messages and emails and people who want a piece of our time. What are some of your best suggestions for avoiding shiny object syndrome and staying focused? I mean, how do we stay focused in this world that's constantly trying to get our attention away from us?
Well, the whole thing concept of time blocking. Okay, there's a time when I check my email. Maybe it's 3 times a day, maybe it's 4 times a day. It's totally up to me. But let's say to do it at 9, at 11, at 1, and at 3, whatever. And I allow 30 minutes to do that, or whatever it is. When people want to talk to me, you don't just call me out of the blue and expect me to answer my phone. Oh, why not? I have to answer the phone when it rings. No, you put it on silent or you put it on airplane mode. You don't have to be on an airplane to put it on airplane mode. If you still have an office line, a landline, unplug it or turn it off. I mean, I haven't had a landline in decades, so I don't know what you do with it. But if you have one, there's ways to turn it off. So this is really, it goes to another D word, discipline. And
that's what I was I was just going to say, are we talking about discipline here? Because that sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah. And people don't like it. The whole word discipline has negative connotations. But come on, let's face it. All those athletes, do they get to where they are now with the lack of discipline? Heck no. No. So that's it. So, there's time. I had a client who complained to me, said, I called my attorney and needed to talk to him. And his assistant told me, when his next availability was, and that means I had to wait for 2 days to get a hold of him. I said, yeah. When he complained to the attorney said, well, that's the only way I can run my business. So I said to him, and I want you to do the same. And he just looked at me like I was from Mars. Huh? He was in construction, I think. I said, yes, I want you to do the same. Why is his time more valuable than yours? Huh? So, that's why this whole, whether you use Calendly or whatever you want to use, Calendly is the most well-known, scheduling tool out there.
Sure.
You want to talk to me? Here's my Calendly. Book an appointment. Instead of this going back and forth. Hey, I'm available on Monday at 7. Oh, no, I can't do Monday at 7. How about Tuesday at 9? Oh, no, I can't do. So you go back and forth a gazillion times till you figure out when you can talk. Calendly? Oh, that's when he's available. Click, boom, done.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's, in my opinion, that's what it boils down to. If you allow what you get inundated with to dictate your day, then you're sunk.
Right. That's when we walk away at the end of the day where we go, oh my God, I was so busy today, but you weren't productive. I always say that you can be incredibly busy all day long and not be productive at all. But the opposite is not true. In order to be productive, you do have to be busy. So to me, the goal is, how do I make myself not just busy, but productive every minute of the day, or as long as I possibly can?
Absolutely.
There's something else that gets in the way. And I think you wrote a blog post, it could be a year ago, about procrastination. Procrastination is a huge issue for many, many people. They like to put things off for the last minute. What are some of your suggestions for overcoming procrastination?
Brian Tracy wrote a great book called Eat That Frog. And he's not talking about a culinary dish, okay? But he's talking exactly about that. When there's a big, challenging task, and you mentioned earlier too, we always go to the easier tasks, right? Now, the big, challenging task is not going away. It's actually getting bigger and bigger and weighing us down more and more, to the point where it becomes ingrained in the back of our minds. And it affects our productivity, because our head knows we still have to do this, but I don't feel like it. And so it's like, a bug in your ear, or in your head. Instead, once you do it, you feel like $1,000,000, and you're like, oh, what's next? Okay, boom, let's tackle the next thing. And I know most people have experienced that. Once they tackled that big, ugly frog, that thing they don't want to do, they feel like $1,000,000.
Yeah, it's like a relief.
Yes, exactly. And so um, it goes back to discipline. But if you ever experienced how you feel after you tackle something daunting, what it feels like afterwards, it's like a euphoria, that you're like on drugs, you're on a high.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to do that again?
Yeah, that makes perfect
Um,
sense.
and
And
if it,
I say the same thing, Christoph. It's put the most difficult stuff first, the most important and difficult stuff first. Excuse me, I'm a very visual learner. So I make signs for myself, and I've got one right behind my camera. So my eyes constantly looking at it that says, am I doing the thing at this moment that's most likely to result in income? And because it's right behind my camera, I see it all day long. And I'm constantly asking myself the question, am I doing the thing at this moment that's most likely to result in income? And it's very simple. If the answer is no, I know I need to be doing something else. If the answer is yes, then I'm doing the right thing. But most of us don't have the discipline, or maybe it's just the knowledge to choose those things because we're just not aware. I mean, I'm very aware of the value of my time, and that every minute wasted is a minute that I can't be serving others, can't be making money to take care of my family and all that good stuff. So it does take some discipline. You mentioned productivity. What's the connection between productivity and happiness?
well, I think that's a very good question. I think if we can uh, reach the end of a day and feel good about our accomplishments, that translates into us feeling good, whether it's happiness or what, but us feeling good and uh, accomplished and successful, whatever terminology you want to use. That makes a difference. That, like when I earlier talked about this whole firefighter thing, you get in at the end of the day, you're exhausted and you feel like you worked all day, like you were busy. But when you look at the day and the results and what you've done, and you realize I really haven't gotten anything done. So
Yeah.
that's a bummer, And so that's, whether you want to use the term happiness or some other terminology for emotional feelings, but
Fulfilled.
that fulfilled,
Yeah.
yes. If you feel fulfilled, guess what? You exude different energy, and everybody around you gets that energy, and that's what they deserve. They don't deserve leftovers, but that's what they get served most of the time, because we come home and and while it goes back to then relationships falling apart, you get home and then the spouse is like, you get a grumpy spouse walking in. Oh gosh, why don't you stay at the office? I don't need a grump here. Take your grumpiness somewhere else. Well, you don't understand what I had to go through today. Whatever. And there you go.
Yeah.
So that's why this whole thing of all the stuff that we're talking about is so critically important, because it affects who we are and who we become and what kind of energy we exude when we walk into a room. Are we exuding contentness, fulfillment, happiness? If you want to use the term happy, it has gotten a little, I don't know, be
Diluted.
happy. Yeah, yeah, that's the word. But if we feel, if emotionally we feel like, oh, that was a good day, for whatever reason, we don't, it doesn't even, if we feel it was a good day, then the, the way we act and the way the energy we exude is peaceful, and
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know. It's just, I hope you
No, I
get what I'm
get it.
trying.
I get it. I have no problem with being exhausted at the end of the day as long as I was productive. If I feel like I did my best and I served the clients that I'm working with or the audience that I'm speaking to, then I have no problem with being exhausted. It's like we said a minute ago. If I'm exhausted at the end of the day and was just busy, I've wasted the day, probably.
Yes.
We're pretty close to running out of time. Who were some of your influences, Christoph?
Well, there's of course Brian Tracy, obviously, John Asraf, Christian Michelson, Those are definitely some got a lot of, when you get trained and get your little piece of paper, that means then you know nothing. You may have a piece of paper, but the real learning starts after that, and so that's surrounding yourself with experts in the industry is really important, and I've always admired Brian Tracy and John Assaf, the secret, I mean,
I know who he is.
yeah, just absolutely incredible. Christian Michelson is a guru in the industry as well. I think those are probably the top three that come to mind.
Gotcha. And if you could only give one piece of advice, what's one action that you want our listeners to take today?
Well, that's kind of hard to say just one action, but let's say if you don't plan create a GPS for your day, start doing that. Okay, and there's many different ways of doing that, but one of the things I talk to my clients about, the last thing you do before you leave the office on Friday, set aside 30 to 45 minutes to plan your next week. In as much detail as you possibly can, because then you can relax on the weekend because your week is planned. You don't have to worry about that. And when you get to the office on Monday morning, you have a plan. You know what you're doing. Like not what you said before earlier when you get to the office. What am I going to do now? Plus, then your mind is off work on the weekend. And I know a lot of people don't take the weekend off. If you don't, please do. Treat yourself. You deserve it. And because we all need a break and we all need rest.
Absolutely. Christoph, I'm going to share my screen right now. Would you please tell people how they can reach you if they're interested in working with you or finding out more about the things you do?
Well, the best place to start is with my website. There's a lot of great resources there. I have a lot of blog posts. They can also go to my YouTube channel. I have lots of episodes there. I have some shorts there that address some of the things we talked about today. I interviewed some folks on my podcast as well. So those are probably the top two places. And yeah, and if you want to schedule a time with me, there's a link on my website. We can just have a conversation and I learn a little bit about what your challenges are and whether or not working together will be beneficial for the both of us. So,
and Christoph, some people are watching this live and they can see the actual screen with all that stuff on it. But for those who are not watching this live and are going to hear this later on a podcast, would you like to just tell people what is your website, or if you want to give out a phone number or anything like that, your email address, so that people who are not watching us, watching it, people who are only listening can have that too?
Sure, absolutely. The website is life@balance6.biz. The word life and then at balance, the number 6.biz. The email is life@balance6.biz. That's my email. And the phone number is 925-286-1886. Again, 925-286-1886. And I'd be happy to have a conversation with you and learn a little bit more about your business and your challenges and see if working together might be a benefit.
Perfect. Love it. Christoph, thank you so much for sharing your brilliance so generously today. And I will end this as I always do. Gang, please remember that sales is a game of making things happen. Get out there and make sales happen. You've got less than 2 months to the end of the year. Do not stop now. This is not the time of the year when you go, okay, nobody's going to talk to me anyways. I'll just coast till the end of the year. I'm telling you, there's still people who need what you've got. You should be reaching out to them, even if they're telling you, call me after the holidays and you can't get past that, at least start setting up your 2026. So now is the time. Keep going. Thanks, Christoph. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.